Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're taking a look at a CLC water cooler from ALSEYE. This is the M240. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so in today's video we're taking a look at the ALSEYE M240, part of the new Max series of CLC water coolers from ALSEYE, available in three sizes. There is a 120, a 240 and a 360mm radiator, obviously to suit various budgets and cooling needs. The 240 I feel is going to be pretty much suitable for most people. It's in that kind of sweet spot in terms of what cases it will physically fit and also obviously price wise. Speaking of price wise, at the moment this retails somewhere in the region of about £60 here in the UK on amazon.co.uk. We will be trying to rustle up a discount code as well from ALSEYE themselves, so do look out for that in the video description and hopefully we'll get an even sweeter bargain. But in today's video we're going to go through, do an unboxing, see what we actually get. We'll go through, do a practical installation, show you how it all goes together. We'll then be doing some testing with the Ryzen 9 3900X, see what the temperatures are like, and then we'll come back at the very end with our final thoughts and recommendations. So strap yourselves in, this could be a long one. Now first of all, before we get into the unboxing and going through that, full disclosure, this was sent to us free of charge for review purposes. They haven't asked us to say anything, but they have offered us a discount code for our viewers. So obviously that is a little bit of a sweetener, but we won't be taking that into account. We will be giving you the full facts on this. So if you are interested in getting yourself a relatively inexpensive water cooler for your system, this may well be the perfect choice. But obviously wait until you find out with the results later until you make a purchase. So let's look at the packaging first of all. Nice packaging actually from ALSEYE, like this, nice retail packaging. Weirdly, I don't know why, but I can't stop looking at it now. It looks like a monkey. Can you see a monkey? There's the eyes. I digress. So it supports RGB, digital RGB, as we've got there, and also it supports Aurora Sync. It's basically on a 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB connector, which you've all seen before. The actual fans and the actual pump head itself are on a proprietary connection, but there is an adapter to convert that to that standard 3-pin 5-volt connection, so no issues there. Also, if you do want to use RGB, but you don't have RGB on your motherboard, or addressable RGB I should say, there is an included controller as well, which is powered from a Molex connector, and you can choose things like colors, modes, etc, etc. So we'll take a look at that when we go through the unboxing. But anyway, very nice packaging. I still can't help but see a monkey there. On the side it goes through some of the specifications, so we'll have a quick look at those now. So we've got the dimensions there, obviously, of the unit itself. We've also got the material, so it's coppered and engineering plastic. Speed-wise, pump rated at 2600 RPM, give or take 10%. And we've got a graphited bearing in there in the actual pump itself. The fans are all fluid dynamic bearings, and we've got the rest of the sizes there. So if you want to take a quick look at that to see if it's going to physically fit your system. Realistically, if you can fit two 120mm fans or two 140mm fans in your case, there's a very strong possibility this is going to fit absolutely fine, but obviously do take notice of the dimensions, and obviously if you're not entirely sure, drop us a line in the comments section below, tell me what case you've got, and we'll try and work out whether it will physically fit for you. So that's pretty much it for the packaging. The only other thing of note is actually on the side here. So this is actually available in all three sizes in two different colours. So you've got a standard black and also you've got the brilliant white. So depending on what your setup is, you can choose either colour. Doesn't appear to be any real difference in the prices, so just choose whichever colour suits your build. Okay, so let's start off with the unboxing and see what we actually get. So first of all, we are greeted with a instruction manual or installation guide, and very well laid out. All looks very simple, and actually all in exploded views as well. So even for those of us that are slightly visually challenged, let's say, it's very easy to make out what exactly is going on. Gives you a full breakdown of all the components for both Intel systems and AMD. Now it does support pretty much all of the AMD sockets, so AM2, AM3 and AM4. As far as Intel goes, when we're looking at pretty much all the sockets other than LGA 1700, which at present there isn't an adapter kit for or section in here for that particular socket. It is relatively new, so maybe that's going to be something which will come out at a later date. I honestly don't know. So if I do find out after I've made this video, I will ask them the question to see if there is an LGA 1700 mounting kit available, or is it going to be an option. I would imagine, like most retailers, they're probably going to end up just making a slightly newer revision of the actual coolers and including that mounting kit in with it. But do check the video description if there's an update on that particular side of things. So let's take a look and see what else we get in the box. So there is our accessories box first of all, and it's clearly marked on the box which accessory kit you've got. So 120, 240 or 360. So in the accessories box, we've got a full complement of accessories. We've got a RGB adapter there with a Molex connector on. Again, there is a speed and mode and lighting section on there. So if you don't have addressable RGB, then you can use this kit. If not, you won't be needing that. There is also a combo backplate. So the backplate is suitable for both AM4, AM2, AM3, and also Intel sockets as well. And all you do is look on the back. That side says AMD, that side says Intel. Depending on which setup you're using, the writing for the actual socket will be facing the motherboard. So if you're using Intel, then the Intel label there will be on the back of your motherboard. Conversely, if you're using AMD, it says AMD on there, so that goes up against the motherboard. There is also included a shim as well, a plastic gasket, which you can put on to obviously protect your motherboard should you need to, depending on your socket and also motherboard layout. Next up, we've got a splitter. So there is a PWM fan splitter there. So that is for connecting the two fans which are attached to the radiator itself. So you can put that into one header on your motherboard to make it easier to configure the fan speeds, etc. And also there is a tube of thermal paste there as well. And the rest of it is all fixtures and fittings. So first of all, we've got a fittings bag here. So this has got both the AMD and the Intel brackets on there and 4 screws to attach to the pump head. There is our washer kit, and it's also labelled up to show you which ones it is. So this is K and L, which will refer to the instructions to see which parts you actually need. There's an LGA 20XX fitting kit there. Then we've got fan fittings and also some bolts for attaching the radiator. And then you've got your CPU clamp down section. So there's springs, washers and threaded bars in there. Pretty much makes sense, and all of them are labelled up clearly to tell you which parts are actually inside, which will relate to obviously the user manual itself. Next up, we've got a pair of fans. So obviously this is a 240mm, so it will consist of two 120mm fans, and these are the ALSEYE 12 volt fans. Got some really nice blades on here, nice angled blades, and actually even just spinning that, there's quite a blast of air going through there. Transparent blades well to let the RGB go through. It is center lit as well. And also there are some bands around the outside edge to give you a 360 RGB look around the outside. So regardless of which way you mount the fan, you will get some RGB bleed through the sides and also from the blades themselves, as you're probably seeing from some B-roll I filmed a little bit earlier. All of the fans as well have rubberized grommets on the corners to absorb vibrations, etc. The fans are rated somewhere between 1000 and 2000 RPM. I'm pretty sure that they're probably going to go down lower than that, but we will find out when we do our testing. I will find out the low point and the high point. Normally, most fans, the RPMs are kind of plus or minus 10%, so we could see anything up to 2100 or so, maybe a little bit more, but again, I'll put the actual rated speeds I've seen in testing on the screen below right now. So we have got two fans included. Obviously, this is a 240. If you go for the 360, clearly you'll get 3 fans. If you go for the 120, you get 1. You get the general idea. Now you have got 2 cables coming off of each fan. So one of which is a 4-pin fully wired PWM connection for obviously speed, etc. and power. And the other one is a pass-through cable. So this has got a 3-pin kind of RGB type connection on it. This is proprietary to them and is basically daisy chainable. So you plug in one, plug in the fan to the next one, plug in the pump to it, and then you can plug the end piece into the adapter, which is included, into your 5 volt addressable RGB header on your motherboard. Or again, like I said earlier, you can use that RGB controller. This is included on the Molex connector to take control of all your lighting. And last but not least, we get the actual radiator and the pump head and lighting, etc. Nice to see this in white, actually. Makes it really nice and easy to film on this contrasting background. So the radiator has been finished in a really nice bright white. You've also got the barbs on the end of the radiator, which has been heat shrinked on there, so they're not going to come off very easily. And also the rubber pipes have actually been covered in a nylon sleeving, which makes it look very nice, very premium. The radiator itself has arrived actually in pretty much, as far as I can see, completely A1 condition. There's no marks or dents in any of the fins at all, and we do have what appears to be a 12 pathway channels on there. So there's 12 sections where the water is going to go up and down through there. Very nice indeed. Yep, very nicely finished. The pump head itself has got a mirror-like finish on the top of the pump, so that is going to give you that kind of mirror or depth effect. And also there is an RGB lighting effect around the outside edge, and also we've got the ALSEYE logo in the middle. Off the pump, we've also got a 3-pin connection, which is going to be for powering the pump itself, which is again is going to be controllable in your BIOS. Plug that into your AIO header, and there's also another one of those 3-pin addressable RGB connections. Again, it's a proprietary one, which daisy chains with the rest of them, so all very nice there. On the bottom, we've got a really nice cold plate on there, and also there is obviously protection on there to stop it getting damaged in transit, which reveals actually a very nicely finished copper base. So yeah, all well and good. The pipes actually connect on are at 90 degrees, and I've got a bit of swivel to them. The only thing is, obviously, depending on how you're mounting this, you will need to mount it in a specific way because of the writing actually on the pump there saying ALSEYE, because obviously you don't want to have that facing in an odd direction. But yeah, looks good so far, like it a lot. So best thing to do now, we've seen exactly what we get, let's see how easy it is to actually fit in a system. Okay, so we're ready to start installing the cooler. So the first thing we want to do is to get our backplate and work out which way round it's going to go. For Intel boards, the Intel logo actually on the frame itself needs to be facing the motherboard, touching against the motherboard. If you're going for Intel, then the Intel side should be facing the motherboard. Now we're doing an AMD install, so what we're going to do is to first of all grab the pins out of the pack, put the pins through, and then use the plastic washers to hold the pins in place, which you can see. And then when it's all completely finished, it should look a little something like this. So we've got our 4 pins sticking through, we've got our isolation plastic attached and stuck on, we've got our 4 pins stuck through, and the plastic washers. There is a little ridge to the plastic washer, make sure that is facing up, and then what that'll do is when you place it through the back of the motherboard tray, those little pins will help it line up. I'll show you that now. So when we pass it through, you can see the pins are all stuck out through there. Next thing to do is we've got a little plastic washers, and we're going to stick those over the top of the pins now. They do kind of want to screw on. When you get to the very end, you should be able to push them in and push them right down into the edge there, and that will hold the back plate in place. Now with the other plastic parts, we can go ahead and repeat that in the other corners. When you've pushed all 4 pieces of plastic on, they should be face down with the little raised section, which hopefully I'll try and get you a close-up of. The raised section, which you might be able to just about see there, should be facing down. So our top section is completely flat. Next, we've got 4 washers and 4 spacers. So stick a washer over each one of the 4 pins. And then we've got our 4 bolts, which we can screw onto the top. Once you've got them all finger tight, then you can go around and tighten them up a little bit more. Just make sure they're fully tightened. The next part is to put our brackets onto the pump head. So we're using the AMD ones. So with the AMD logo facing upwards, slot into here, and then you can line it up with those brass holes, and then we can just screw through there. Make sure that the countersunk section is facing upwards. Now you can put the screws into the countersunk section, and just make sure that they're nice and tight, and then do that for the top and the bottom section. When you've got both of them installed, it should look a little something like this. Next part is to attach the fans to the radiator using the long screws provided. So just line up your fans with the holes, drop the screw down through, and you can do a couple of turns just to get the screw started, and then you can go around and do the other 4 corners. At this point, it's probably a good idea to actually look at the wires coming out the bottom of the actual fans themselves, just to make sure that when you actually put it inside the PC, that you can route the cables through where you want to at the back of the PC. Otherwise you'll find yourself lining up the radiator and then having to put it back in with the fans round another way. The next part is to actually mount the radiator into the top of the chassis. So in order to do that, line up the radiator and also have your screws ready for the top mount, and then just place it roughly in position, lining up with whatever screws you've got available in the top of your case. And whilst you're holding it in place, you can put some of the screws in by hand, just put them in thumb tight. So on the top, just put in all your screws. There's 8 in total, 1 in each corner, and then you've got 2 more centralized. Don't need to over tighten these. Just make sure that none of them are actually loose. And that's the top section done. Okay, so the next part is we can apply some thermal paste. So we're going to stick some thermal paste on our processor. And when we've done that, we can then remove our protective coating from the underside of the heat pump. And then we can twist the heat pump round into the location we want it, lining up the holes. And that should hold in place. The next thing we want to do is to get our screws to go on the top. So now we can apply these spring washers, and they just go over the top. Just do a couple of turns on each one just to get them started. You may find you need to move the actual tubes off the side of the pump to gain access to the lower ones. And then you can just go around using some pretty equal pressure in the four corners and do up each one of the screws until it will no longer turn. There is a threaded section that will actually stop when it's at the correct tension. Once you've done that, you can then move the pipes down however you want them to make them look nice, group them up, and then we can pass through the wires. So you've got one wire which is your 3-pin, which is for the addressable RGB, so we can pass that through the top section to connect up with the fans, and the other one is our 3-pin PWM style connection, which is our pump header, which is attached to the motherboard, and ours is right down in this corner. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so now we're on the back side. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit messy, so let's grab all of our cables. So first of all, we're going to grab our two cables that come off the fans at the front, or from the radiator rather, and we're going to plug those into the Y splitter, which I've already connected to the CPU fan header. So that are those. Put those out of the way just for now. And then we've got our addressable RGB connections. So these are actually quite long, apart from the one for the actual pump. So what you want to do is to grab the pass-throughs, snap them into place. So there's one. Then we've got another one of those, so just connect up to an end piece. And they just snap into place. So then you should be left at the end with just one of these single male connections. So then you can grab the female connection from the adapter in the accessories box, plug that into the end, and then that leads you at the end to a 3-pin 5-volt addressable RGB header, which you can plug into either your motherboard, or in this instance I'm just going to plug it into the hub with the rest of my addressable RGB components. And there we go. So now you can do some cable management, tidy it all up, but essentially that is it, you're ready to go. Okay, so that has been a pleasurable experience installing the ALSEYE M240. Really impressed actually. Everything goes together exactly as it should. There's no kind of gotchas on there, as long as you follow the instructions. And yeah, it's very straightforward. Couldn't ask for more. It is a very common type of mounting system. It has been used on quite a few other devices that I've seen in the past, so kind of felt like second nature using it, but it fits very well, very easy to do. And best of all, it's very easy to maintain. Just undoing those top 4 screws, you can pull off the pump head, get in, reapply paste to, if you're maybe doing some paste tests, which we'll be doing in the coming weeks and months. So yeah, perfect for that kind of thing if you're doing bench testing, that sort of stuff. But just for general maintenance, really easy to do. You don't have to worry about the back plate falling off because it's all held in place by that mounting system. So yeah, very, very good, like it a lot. What I do like as well is the temperatures. This actually performed very, very well. I have actually compared it against the Silverstone Hydrogon, which is effectively kind of like the same sort of thing in terms of has 2 heat pipe stacks and also has 2 120mm fans. So effectively, you're looking at pretty much the same surface area, albeit obviously we have water in this, whereas a Silverstone is an air cooler. But they do retail for very similar prices, somewhere in the region of kind of £55–60. So I thought it was actually a pretty decent test. So let's look first of all at the Cinebench R23 scores and see which one came out best. So as you can see from the results there, the Silverstone Hydrogon got 18,182, and the ALSEYE M240 beat it by just a shade over 200 points, coming in at 18,385 points. So yeah, pretty decent jump there. Effectively, that is kind of the difference between closing down all the apps on your PC and rerunning the test. So it just goes to show that the water cooling in here is giving a little bit more thermal headroom and allowing the processor to stretch its legs a little bit more. So if you're looking to squeeze the most performance you can out of your processor, then this is definitely a good shot. Now, processor-wise, you've probably seen it on the graphs anyway, but we're using the old favourite, which we tend to use for all these tests, which is the Ryzen 9 3900. Precision boost overclocking is set to auto, and everything else, the fan speeds are set to 40% at 40, 60% at 60, and 100% at 70 degrees Celsius. And I'm very happy to report that this actually didn't get anywhere near 70 degrees. Well, it kind of did, but didn't quite get to 100%. So let's take a look at the temperature tests. So for the temperature test, we looked at the lowest recorded minimum, which is basically idle characteristics, and then the maximum load after 5-minute stress test of Cinebench R23. Now, I have done this before where I've done 5, 10, 15 minutes and gone on. Realistically, after about 5 minutes, most coolers seem to reach their kind of equilibrium, and certainly that was the case in this testing. I did actually leave the test running on further than 5 minutes after I recorded the score, and the temperatures didn't change, it just hovered around the same thing. Dropped a little bit, went up a little bit, dropped a bit, went up a little bit, so we definitely found our equilibrium quite quickly. So the Silverstone managed to get a low temperature of 34.8 degrees Celsius. Now this is in a 25 degrees Celsius room, so take off 25 degrees and you get your exact deltas. The ALSEYE M240 came in just under 30 degrees at 29.9, which is actually one of the lowest temperatures I've seen actually on my test system, so definitely a thumbs up for that. Although realistically, idle temperatures don't really tell the full story. It just means that it's got particularly cool actually in the heatsink. What you're really looking for is to see how hot it actually gets and see if it can actually control those temperatures. And I'm happy to say it did beat the Silverstone quite convincingly. So the Silverstone came in at 69.4 degrees Celsius, whereas the ALSEYE M240 came in at 67 degrees bang on. So almost 3 degrees less for essentially a very similarly priced cooler. Now actually anything underneath 70 degrees I class as being spectacular for this particular setup. Even things like the Noctua D15 and other larger coolers that we've reviewed in the past, which you can check out in the playlist below, they've all come in somewhere around that kind of 70 degrees mark, some a little bit over, some a little bit below. And the Hydrogon actually turned out to be one of the better ones on the test. So for this 240mm AIO to actually come in and beat it by a solid almost 3 degrees, I think is pretty spectacular. So let's wrap this up. Essentially, what do we get? So we get, I would consider great value for money. It ran about the £60 mark, depending where you pick it up. I think this is actually a really good option. It's a weird market at the moment with AIOs. You can get some super cheap ones on the market. There have been the Cooler Master ones, which we've seen dotted around for even as low as £40, although they have had some reliability issues with leaking, and I actually bought 4 of them at one point, and of the 4, 2 of them leaked in the box before I even got them installed. The other 2, well, I don't ask just in case. So definitely good value for money. It's using proven technology. This is design which has been used by other OEMs, etc. And ALSEYE have just put their own spin on it with those custom RGB fans. And the whole thing actually works really well. As you can see in the PC, it looks really nice. The RGB glow around the pump head and also the RGB from the fans shines through nice and brightly and is well evenly diffused, which looks really nice in this setup. Now obviously there is a black and a white version available, so if you want to go for the black one, if you're using this in a black case like I have done, you might find that more beneficial and might fit in a little bit better. But I think actually the contrast of the white in the darker case actually looks pretty nice also. But really, it's going to be down to you which you go for. And obviously, like I said before at the beginning of the video, this is available in 3 sizes. So there's the 120 version, the 240 version, which we've got here, and also the 360. All of which available in either black or white finishes. So plenty of options, lots of things that you can choose from. I should say again, thanks to ALSEYE for sending this out for review purposes. I'm actually very impressed. I'll be honest with you, because ALSEYE is a brand that I've not really seen a great deal of, and reviews are pretty far and few between, I was really concerned that this may not live up to the actual price and what it should be doing. But I'm actually really pleased to say that it's actually exceeded my expectations. So well done to ALSEYE. Hopefully more to come. They do actually do a very similar version to this with actually soft water pipes, which is like a custom kit with a reservoir and that, so maybe we might take a look at that at a later date. Anyway, let me know what you think about this one in the comments section below, but for now, I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.